Rachel opened the envelope and stared at a check for $50,000. Her aunt had left it to her, plain and simple, with no instructions. Across town, Tanya opened an identical envelope, the exact same $50,000. Same age, 32 years old, same salary, $60,000 a year. Same city, same starting line, the same money on the very same afternoon. Neither of them was rich, and neither of them was an investor yet. 30 years later, Rachel quietly sits on $2 million. Tanya sits on $476,000, and she is furious. Same money, same market, same 3 decades of headlines and crashes. One walked away a millionaire, the other walked away feeling cheated. The gap between them was not luck, and it was not income. It came down to 3 small habits that literally anyone can copy. No trading screens, no side hustle, no secret that nobody else can access. Just 3 quiet habits repeated on autopilot for 30 boring years. Most people think building real wealth requires picking the next big winner. They picture a genius broker, a hot tip, or one perfectly timed bet. The truth is calmer than that, and honestly, a little disappointing. $2 million is mostly just patience wearing a business suit. Today we run the numbers on both women, dollar by dollar. You will see exactly where Tanya's missing $1.5 million went. And you will see how ordinary the winning behavior actually looks up close. Before we split them apart, sit with how identical their starting points were. Both women had the same rent, the same student loans, the same worries. Both wanted a comfortable retirement, and neither trusted the stock market completely. The difference was never a burst of courage or a flash of genius. It was a set of small choices, made calmly and then simply repeated. That is the uncomfortable part, because it means the results were reachable by anyone. There is no villain in this story who stole Tanya's future from her. There is only a pattern of ordinary decisions that quietly compounded the wrong way. And that should feel like good news, not bad news to you. If ordinary choices built the gap, then ordinary choices can close it too. So the question is not whether you can afford to start investing. The real question is whether you can stay boring long enough to finish. Most financial advice sells you excitement, urgency, and the fear of missing out. This is the opposite of that, and the numbers are firmly on our side. Here is what the data actually shows about that first $50,000. Left completely alone in the market, $50,000 behaves like a seed. At the market's long-run return near 10%, money doubles roughly every 7 years. 50,000 becomes 100,000, then 200, then 400,000. 400 becomes 800,000, and 800 becomes 1.6 million. Given enough time, that single untouched seed grows into $2 million. But time alone is slow, taking almost 38 years to arrive. Rachel did not wait 38 years, and neither do you have to. She added a second engine that cut more than a decade off the clock. Before we run those numbers, understand what we are really measuring here. We are measuring behavior, not intelligence, across 3 long decades. Rachel is not smarter than Tanya, and she earns the exact same paycheck. She simply built 3 habits and then refused to interrupt them. Tanya built the same good intentions, but interrupted herself again and again. Every interruption felt reasonable, and every interruption quietly cost her money. Added up, those small interruptions are worth over $1.5 million. That is the price of feelings, compounded monthly for 30 years. So let me show you exactly where every single dollar went. We will walk through 3 habits, one at a time, with real numbers. Habit 1 is the most boring habit, and it is the most powerful. Rachel automated one transfer of $500 every single payday. The money left her checking account before she ever saw it or felt it. $500 a month is about $17 a day, less than lunch. She never once made a heroic decision because the decision was already made. The transfer happened whether she felt motivated, tired, broke, or scared. This is the trick nobody frames correctly on a finance channel. Automation removes the one unreliable part of investing, which is you. Tanya chose the opposite path, promising to invest whatever was left over. Some months there was $300 left, most months there was nothing. Motivation is a terrible savings plan because feelings simply do not compound. Systems compound, automation compounds. Willpower quietly runs out by Thursday afternoon. By year 3, Rachel had invested $18,000 without noticing. By that same year, Tanya had invested about $4,000 in nervous bursts. The head start was not money, it was a decision made only once. Let us zoom in on that first payday because it decided everything. On day one, Rachel set up the transfer and then closed her laptop. The whole act of building wealth took her about 11 minutes total. Tanya, on day one, decided to research and start investing next month. That next month became next quarter, and next quarter became next year. By the time Tanya finally started, Rachel was already $40,000 ahead. That head start came from action, not from intelligence or income. The most expensive words in investing are, "I will start when things settle." Things never settle. The market is always a little bit scary somewhere. Rachel started inside the fear, and the fear turned out to be harmless. There is one more number worth sitting with before we move on. If Rachel had only kept her $50,000 and added nothing more, watch. That untouched seed alone still grows past $900,000 in 30 years. The $500 a month roughly doubled her outcome from automation alone. Two engines running quietly together turned an ordinary life into a rich one. Neither engine required her to be right about a single stock. Now run the numbers on Rachel's automatic $500 a month. Add that steady stream on top of her $50,000 head start. At 10% for 30 years, the total lands at $2,002,000. That is the entire headline, built from one boring automatic transfer. $50,000 upfront, $500 a month, and 30 patient years. No stock picking appears anywhere in that sentence, and that is the point. Most people never automate, so most people never see this number arrive. Now here is the part that quietly decides the whole outcome. Of that $2 million, only $230,000 was money Rachel deposited. The other $1.7 million was growth she never lifted a finger for. She contributed the fuel, but compounding did the actual heavy lifting. Her only real job was to keep feeding it and stay out of the way. Think about that ratio the next time a deposit feels too small. Every $10 you automate today is really future dollars in disguise. Meet Priya, 25, who has no inheritance and no $50,000 at all. She starts from absolute zero, with only an automatic habit to her name. From zero, $885 a month reaches $2 million in 30 years. Priya has no lump sum, so her engine is pure monthly discipline. The lesson is the same for her as it is for Rachel. The size of the seed matters far less than the steadiness of the watering. Watch how quietly Rachel's balance actually grows, year by year. After 5 years, her account holds around $112,000. It feels slow and unremarkable, and most people quit somewhere right here. After 10 years, that balance has climbed to roughly $230,000. Her own deposits are only a slice of that, and compounding is waking up. After 15 years, she crosses $400,000 without any drama. After 20 years, the balance passes $700,000, still on autopilot. Now the curve stops crawling and genuinely begins to bend upward. After 25 years, Rachel is sitting on about $1.2 million. And in the final 5 years, the account adds nearly $800,000 more. That last 5-year stretch grows more than her first 20 years combined. This is the part nobody has the patience to actually reach. Compounding pays its biggest checks at the very end, not the beginning. Most people quit in the slow years and miss the explosive ones entirely. The boring middle is not a detour, it is the whole toll road. Every year Rachel stayed invested made the next year mathematically larger. Quitting at year 10 would have cost her the entire back half of the curve. So the real skill was never picking, it was outlasting the boredom. Habit 2 is about what you actually buy with all that automatic money. Rachel did not try to pick the next winning stock or hot sector. She bought exactly one thing, a low-cost index fund covering the whole market. One fund, 500 companies bought automatically, and then simply forgotten. She owned a tiny slice of nearly every major company in America. When one company failed, 500 others quietly kept carrying her forward. The fee on that index fund is 0.03%. On $10,000 invested, that is $3 a year in cost. You could not buy a coffee for what that fund charged her annually. Tanya went hunting instead, chasing hot stocks and clever, actively managed funds. Her fund had a confident manager, a glossy brochure, and a great story. That actively managed fund charged 0.8% every year. On the surface, 0.8% sounds almost too small to matter. It is less than 1 penny on the dollar, so who would even notice? But a fee is not a one-time cost, it is a yearly leak. It skims your winners, then skims the growth those winners would have made. Over 30 years, that quiet fee gap ate $347,000. Same market, same deposits, but the expensive fund silently skimmed an entire house. Tanya never wrote a check for that money, so she never felt it leave. That is exactly why fees are the most painless way to go broke slowly. Here is what nobody tells you about those clever, expensive managed funds. Over the last 5 years, 82% of them lost to the simple index. Read that again, because it should end most arguments right there. Professionals with Bloomberg terminals and research teams still could not beat the boring average. Tanya paid premium prices for a product that quietly underperformed a cheaper one. Imagine paying extra for a slower car and thanking the salesman on the way out. An advisor once told Tanya the index fund was too simple to trust. He wore a sharp suit and promised sophistication for a comfortable annual fee. Sophistication, it turned out, was the product she was paying him to imagine. The index fund was not the humble choice, it was the smart choice. You are not usually paying for performance, you are paying for a story. And a good story, charged yearly, is the most expensive thing you can own. Make the decision that matches your reality, not someone else's sales pitch. Before the third habit, let us kill 3 misconceptions that ruin most investors. The first misconception is that you need a lot of money to begin. You do not. $50 a month automated already starts the compounding engine. The second misconception is that more trading means more money. In reality, the more often people touch their portfolio, the less they tend to keep. Activity feels productive, but in investing, activity is usually just expensive noise. The third misconception is that a big salary is what builds wealth. Plenty of high earners retire with almost nothing because spending rose with income. Rachel outinvested people earning triple her salary on habits alone. Wealth is not what you earn, it is the gap you quietly keep and grow. Hold those 3 corrections in mind, because the last habit protects all of them. Habit 3 is the quietest of the 3, and it saves the most of all. Rachel simply refused to sell when the market got genuinely scary. And over 30 years, the market got very scary many separate times. There were crashes where her balance fell 30 and even 40%. On paper, she watched $200,000 vanish in a single autumn. Her stomach dropped, her friends panicked, and every headline screamed collapse. Her brother begged her to get out before she lost everything. The pressure to do something was enormous, constant, and completely human. So she did one radical thing during every single crash. Nothing. She kept the automatic transfer running and quietly bought more at lower prices. To Rachel, a crash was not a fire, it was a sale. Every scary month, her $500 simply bought cheaper shares. When the market recovered, those cheap shares became her biggest winners. Tanya did the natural human thing, and it cost her a fortune. When markets fell, Tanya sold to stop the pain and protect what was left. Selling felt responsible, protective, and mature in the exact moment she did it. Then markets recovered, and she waited for certainty before buying back in higher. She sold low and bought high again and again, feeling careful every time. Every exit felt smart in the moment and disastrous in the data. She was not lazy or stupid. She was simply reacting like a normal person. And normal human reactions are the single most expensive habit in investing. Most people believe the market is the thing that takes their wealth away. The truth is stranger and quite a bit harder to hear. Your own hands do far more damage than any crash ever could. The crash is temporary, but the sell button makes the loss permanent. It helps to understand why selling feels so overwhelmingly right in the moment. Our brains are wired to treat a falling balance like physical danger. A 40% drop reads to the body like a genuine threat to survival. So the instinct to run is not weakness, it is ancient biology. The problem is that ancient biology is a terrible portfolio manager. The market rewards the person who can override that alarm and sit still. Rachel did not feel less fear than Tanya during those crashes. She just built a rule that took the decision out of her shaking hands. Her rule was simple: never sell on a red day, ever. When the panic peaked, the rule answered for her, and the rule stayed calm. That is the real function of a system, to decide before you are afraid. Tanya had no rule, so every crash became a fresh, raw negotiation. And a frightened brain negotiating with itself almost always chooses to sell. The recoveries always came, but Tanya was rarely still holding when they did. She kept being right about the fear and wrong about the money. Let me put a hard number on that instinct to sell. There is a research firm that measures how real investors actually perform. Not the index on paper, but the returns real humans truly keep. Over 20 years, the market itself returned 10.35% a year. The average investor over that exact same window earned only 9.24. That gap looks small, barely 1%, hardly worth a headline. But apply that same gap to Rachel's precise $50,500 plan. The calm, patient investor ends near $2.18 million. The average, slightly jumpy investor ends near $1.67 million instead. That single percent of quiet panic costs $507,000. $500,000 gone, not to fees or taxes, but purely to fear. That is more than double every dollar these women ever actually deposited. Feel that for a moment because it reframes the entire game. Your behavior, not your bank, is the biggest fee you will ever pay. Now imagine an investor who does not merely wobble, but truly panics. In one brutal 30-year stretch, the market returned 11.1% a year. The average investor over that same stretch captured only 3.69. They were in and out, chasing and fleeing, missing the best days entirely. Missing just the 10 best days of a decade can cut your ending in half. Run that panicked 3.69 return on the very same plan. Instead of $2 million, the panicker ends with $476,000. That is Tanya's exact number, and now you know precisely where it came from. She lost $1.7 million, not to the market, but to herself. Same $50,000, same paycheck, same 3 decades, wildly different endings. Nobody stole her money. She handed it away, one anxious sell order at a time. There was one more quiet edge Rachel used, and it was completely free. She held her index fund inside tax-advantaged retirement accounts first. A 401k and a Roth let her growth compound without a yearly tax bite. Her employer even matched part of her contribution, an instant 50% return. Tanya skipped the match for years, leaving free money sitting on the table. Turning down a full employer match is refusing a guaranteed raise. Rachel also reinvested every dividend the fund ever paid her. Those reinvested dividends bought new shares, which then paid dividends of their own. It is a small snowball riding on top of the bigger snowball. Tanya, meanwhile, spent her dividends and wondered why her balance lagged. Now let us be honest about Tanya, because she was genuinely trying. In year 4, she moved a chunk into a single hot tech stock. It doubled. She felt brilliant, and then it gave all of it back. In year 9, she tried day trading for a stressful, exhausting summer. She finished that summer down $11,000 and completely drained. In year 12, a coworker's crypto tip erased another $18,000. None of these were crazy. They were the normal detours of an anxious investor. Each detour felt like progress and quietly set her further behind. Rachel took 0 of those detours, and that absence of drama made her rich. Let us also be fair about what $2 million really buys. 30 years of inflation will soften that number, and that is expected. But the alternative was not $2 million in today's money, it was far less saved. Doing nothing does not protect you from inflation, it simply surrenders to it. The index fund is one of the few engines that historically outruns rising prices. And what about starting late, at 40 instead of 32? A later start means a smaller ending, and the math is honest about that. But a smaller 2-decade result still crushes a nervous 30-year result. The best day to automate was years ago. The second best day is today. Late and consistent still beats early and jumpy almost every single time. Here is the counterintuitive truth almost nobody puts on a thumbnail. The hardest part of investing is not figuring out what to buy. The hardest part is sitting still while your instincts scream at you to run. Rachel's real superpower was not brilliance. It was a kind of productive boredom. She made her decisions once, automated them, and then stopped touching them. The market doesn't take your millions. Your own hands do. Let that line sit for a second because it rewrites the whole game. If the true enemy is your own behavior, then the fix is beautifully simple. You do not need a better brain, you need a better system. A system does not feel fear, and a system never chases a hot tip. Rachel built 3 systems and then got out of their way for 30 years. Automate the deposit so motivation never gets a single vote. Own the whole market cheaply so fees never skim your house away. Refuse to sell in a panic so fear never rewrites your ending. There is a reason this plan sounds almost too simple to actually work. Simple does not sell newsletters, and it does not fill trading apps. A boring index fund has nothing to advertise and no urgency to create. So an entire industry is paid to make you distrust the simplest answer. Every complicated product Tanya bought had a marketing budget behind it. Rachel's index fund had no salesman because nobody profits when you just hold. That silence is exactly why the simplest path is so easy to miss. The people getting rich slowly are not on television talking about it. They are quietly automating $500 and living their ordinary lives. Wealth built this way is invisible, which is why so few people believe it. But the $2 million in Rachel's account is not invisible to Rachel. It is the direct, boring mathematical result of 3 repeated choices. And those exact 3 choices are sitting in front of you right now. Notice that none of these 3 habits require you to be special. You do not need a finance degree or a wealthy, connected family. You do not need to predict a single recession or interest rate move. You need $50 or $500 moving automatically into something boring. Then you need the rarest skill of all, which is leaving it completely alone. Most people can start a plan. Very few people can simply continue one. The continuing, not the starting, is where the $2 million actually hides. Boredom, it turns out, is the most underrated wealth-building skill there is. So think about your own version of that $50,000. Maybe it is $50,000 today. Maybe it is $500 a month from zero. Maybe it is a forgotten account you have been too nervous to fund. The exact starting number matters far less than the 3 habits around it. Automate it, buy the boring index, and refuse to flinch when it drops. Do that quietly for 3 decades, and the math does the heavy lifting for you. The plan is almost insultingly simple, which is exactly why so few finish it. Rachel is not a genius, and Tanya is honestly not a fool. They are 2 ordinary people who made 3 small choices differently. One chose calm systems over hot feelings, and feelings cost the other a fortune. The good news is that these 3 habits are free and available today. You can automate 1 transfer this week and start your own 30-year clock. Let us bring all 3 habits back together one final time. Automate the deposit, own the boring index, and never sell in a panic. 3 habits, 0 genius required, and every one of them is free. Rachel did not beat the market, she simply refused to beat herself. That single sentence is the whole difference between 2 million and $500,000. You already have everything you need to start your own version tonight. 1 automatic transfer is the first, smallest, and most important domino. If this made the hidden math feel a little clearer, stay with us here. Subscribe to Maya Wealth and hit the notification bell below. We break down the hidden math behind the financial decisions you face every day. No hustle culture, no shame, just the honest numbers most people never run. Make the decision that matches your reality, not someone else's sales pitch. Your $2 million is not built on genius. It is built on staying.